Why was her name the one they didn't speak at the briefing table? Staff Sergeant Maya Rodriguez had earned her stripes. 3 tours in Afghanistan, 2 in Iraq, decorated in Kandahar. But when she stepped into the mission room that morning, silence followed. She wasn't sure if it was the reprimand from Operation Sandstorm or the fact that everyone knew this mission was her last shot. Maybe both. Syria, a scorched, forgotten stretch of desert near a gutted industrial complex. 4 soldiers, 1 objective, recon and extraction. Easy on paper. But Maya's gut churned before they even crossed into the sector. The satellite scans had shown nothing. Too clean. That was the problem. War zones didn't erase themselves. They just went quiet right before the storm. She should have spoken. By the time Jenkins dropped, it was too late. 1 shot center mass. No warning, no muzzle flash. Just the echo. Then the body collapsing backward. Red mist settling on sun-baked concrete. Sniper! Maya shouted, diving behind a collapsed wall. Kim scattered left. Torres broke right. And for a moment, the silence returned until the second shot spun Kim like a rag doll. Shoulder hit, bleeding badly. Not dead. Not yet. That was 6 hours ago now. Pinned beneath a shredded slab of concrete, Maya watched Kim fight for breath. She counted the shallow rise and fall of his chest. Each more fragile than the last. She had tried twice to reach him. Both times, bullets shaved the air an inch from her skull. Whoever this sniper was, they weren't local militia. The shots were random. They were deliberate, surgical. Not meant to kill yet, but to trap, to torment, to remind them who held the goddamn leash. A radio crackled. Colonel Morrison's voice sliced through the static. Viper 6, this is command. Status report. Maya hesitated, then pressed her back tighter to the wall and keyed in. Pinned by sniper fire. 1 Kia. 1 wounded. Request immediate extraction. Silence. Then, negative on extraction. Area's too hot. Complete the mission. Reach extraction point Bravo within 24 hours. She blinked. Sir, we have a man bleeding out. That's an order. If no contact is made by 0800, you will be presumed. Kia. Command out. The radio went dead. For a second, Maya didn't breathe. Did she hear that right? They were abandoning them. A death sentence signed with military protocol and a cold voice on the other end of the line. Maya's chest tightened. This wasn't about proving herself anymore. This was survival. Sarge, Torres whispered across the open ground, barely visible behind a flipped barrier. Kim's not looking good. No shit. Kim's skin had gone pale. His lips moved in silent prayer or memory. Maya couldn't tell which. She wanted to scream, to run to him, to drag his body to safety. But the next shot answered her rage. It slammed into the concrete just inches from Torres. A warning. Stay down. Stay quiet. Wait to die. She clenched her jaw. She hadn't survived roadside bombs in Kandahar or rooftop shootouts in Fallujah. Just to bleed out in silence. And if this sniper thought he'd already won, he'd forgotten one thing. She was still breathing. As the sun dipped behind the burned-out buildings, shadows crept across the field of death. Maya exhaled slowly. The sniper was skilled, but human. And humans have patterns, weaknesses. She just had to live long enough to find his. Why had he kept them alive this long? As the desert heat gave way to cold twilight, Maya's instincts began to shift. Fear dulled. Clarity sharpened. She wasn't just in a sniper's trap. She was in a game, a long one, and he was playing with precision, not cruelty. At least not the kind that rushed things. Every 15 to 20 minutes, a shot, not to kill, to control, hurt, isolate. Sometimes it cracked against the ground beside Kim's motionless body. Sometimes near Torres. Sometimes so close to Maya's position she swore she felt the heat kiss her skin. But never fatal, never sloppy. A lesser shooter would have lost patience by now. This one was a ghost, tactical, patient, and most disturbing, he knew exactly how to push them, not just with bullets, but with silence. Maya studied the map by the weak light of her phone. The complex had 3 main structures: a collapsed factory to the north, a gutted warehouse to the east, and the administrative building to the south still mostly intact. They were being driven. She saw it now. Torres had tried to crawl north, shot fired. She tried east, bullet to the wall. South was the only path. Left unchallenged, and that's where command had originally pointed them. The administrative building, their supposed objective, so why would a hostile sniper drive them toward it? Maya's throat tightened. Was it a trap? A massacre site? Or something else? Sarge. Torres whispered again from the shadows. We've got maybe 1 hour left of light, then it's his world. Not ours. She nodded. But even in darkness, the sniper had an edge. Night vision, likely. Her team had nothing but 2 flares and gear barely rated for daytime recon. Every shadow would become a coffin. Kim hadn't responded to her soft calls in almost half an hour. No movement, no groan, no plea. She tried not to accept what that meant. With slow, silent motion, she crawled backward, inch by agonizing inch, away from her position and toward a ruined pharmacy that might provide cover between her and the administrative building. The concrete sliced her forearms. Her gear snagged on twisted metal. Every movement was a risk. Every breath a prayer. Then she stopped, just beneath her elbow. A boot-worn American issue. The body it belonged to was half buried beneath rubble. The face gone, but the uniform still half intact, wrong camo pattern. Not recent. Maya leaned in. Dog tags. Staff Sergeant Michael Chun, 75th Ranger Regiment, KIA. 14 months ago. Her pulse spiked. She knew that unit. The 75th Rangers weren't supposed to have operated in this region. Not officially, but Chun wasn't alone. As she crawled deeper into the ruins, she found 2 more bodies. Same condition. Gear stripped, tags intact, photos, notes, mementos insurgents wouldn't care about. American soldiers, forgotten, discarded, slaughtered here months before. No record, no explanation. Her breath caught in her throat. She lifted her phone, snapped. Quiet photos. Every instinct screamed back out. Get Torres, run. Then came the voice. Clear, calm, American. Sergeant Rodriguez. I know you can hear me. It wasn't coming from the pharmacy. It came from the administrative building. High, 3rd floor, right side. She dropped behind a shattered concrete beam. Rifle up, heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her ears. You found them, didn't you? Chun, Martinez, Williams, Goodman. They died believing they were serving something real. Maya froze. The voice wasn't just American. It was familiar, confident, calculated. Like a man who had once led troops now leading ghosts. Your government sent you here to die, Sergeant Rodriguez. Just like they sent my unit. A pause. Then Torres' voice crackled over her earpiece. Maya, what the hell is going on? Who is that? She didn't answer. Tell your friend to stay down, the sniper said, almost kindly. This conversation is between soldiers, between the betrayed. Maya's mind reeled. She'd heard of soldiers snapping, men who had seen too much and turned on their own. But this wasn't madness. This was something else. It was control, a man with a plan. You're wondering how I know so much about you, aren't you, Rodriguez? The voice taunted. Born in San Antonio, enlisted at 18, father died. In a scaffolding accident, Kandahar, Fallujah, Operation Sandstorm. That last one got messy, didn't it? Maya's blood ran cold. Operation Sandstorm was classified. Only senior command had access to the details. Not even her full team had. Know what really went wrong. This sniper knew. She gritted her teeth. Who are you? Captain David Hassan, the voice said simply. 2nd Battalion, 75th Rangers. Supposedly killed in a helicopter crash. They gave my mother a flag. Told her I was a hero, tidy, isn't it? He let the silence hang. They needed a body. For the ceremony, used what they could recover. From my squad, Maya's knees nearly buckled. This wasn't a ghost story. It was a confession. Torres's voice came again. Sarge? You're scaring the hell out of me. Maya kept her rifle steady, aimed at the building. If you're really who you say you are, she called out. Prove it. A pause. Then, calmly, Hassan recited, Never shall I fail my comrades. I will. Always keep myself mentally alert, physically strong, and morally straight. The Ranger Creed, third stanza. Beautiful words, he added. Too bad the people giving orders never bothered to read them. Maya's breath caught in her throat. He wasn't just an enemy. He was a reflection. A man once trusted with command. Now lost, betrayed, turned. And if he was telling the truth, so was she. Everything command had told her, everything they'd ordered, was a lie. The trap hadn't been the sniper. The trap was the mission. If the sniper wasn't lying, then who was command really trying to kill? Maya stared at the radio in her hand. Static buzzed quietly, waiting for her to respond, to believe, to choose. She shouldn't have keyed the mic. She knew that. But something inside her, some stubborn belief that maybe command would help if they only knew the truth, made her do it anyway. Command, this is Viper 6. We're under fire. But not from hostiles, from an American operative. Request immediate extraction. Repeat, Rogue U. Yes, sniper engaged. Request backup. There was a long silence. Then Colonel Morrison's voice returned. I see hollow. Viper 6, you are to complete your mission as ordered. Disregard any enemy propaganda or psychological warfare. Command out. The radio clicked off. That was it. No hesitation, no questions, no follow-up. Maya lowered the radio slowly. Her hand trembled. They knew. They weren't surprised. They weren't even confused. They just dismissed her. You're not the first, Hassan called out again, his voice echoing across the compound. When my unit was ambushed, we called for extraction too. You know what command said? A pause. Nothing. They cut us off mid-transmission. Just like you. Maya's stomach turned. She remembered the after-action report from Operation Sandstorm. The inconsistencies, the odd language in her reprimand, deviated from protocol. Not mistake, not error. Something colder, and now this. She crouched lower against the debris and whispered into her comm. Torres, stay down, whatever happens. Don't respond unless I tell you to. From across the field, his voice cracked. Sarge, who the hell is this guy? She didn't answer because she was still trying to understand it herself. I saw the footage, she called out to Hassan. Your memorial, the helicopter wreckage. They showed it at Fort Bragg. Hassan's voice turned bitter. They needed a body or enough pieces to sell a good story. Some of my men were still breathing when the chopper exploded. They didn't care. They had their narrative. A lump formed in Maya's throat. This wasn't just betrayal. It was strategy. Cold. Calculated. Command had buried the truth and the bodies. You killed Jenkins, Maya said quietly. A pause. Yes, I did. And I'm sorry. But I couldn't let you leave this place without knowing what you walked into. And Kim? Her voice broke on his name. Wasn't supposed to happen. That second shot was meant to keep him down, not hit him. I was too slow pulling the trigger. Maya clenched her jaw, fighting the swirl of fury and grief. The man responsible for Jenkins. Death was apologizing like it meant something, like it could undo anything. But deep down, she already knew Hassan hadn't been trying to kill them. He'd been directing them, keeping them corralled, herded toward the administrative building, toward something, and now the truth was starting to break through. Why? She whispered. Why keep us alive? Because they already wrote your eulogy, Rodriguez, just like they wrote mine. But I didn't die, and neither have you. That means we get to decide how this ends. Then came the sound that shattered whatever was left of her doubt. A voice. Recording Morrison's voice. The Rodriguez team needs to be eliminated before they report back. Make it look like enemy action. We can't afford them asking questions about the previous operation. Another voice responded. Understood. Sir, what about Hassan's unit? Leave them. If Rodriguez's team finds the bodies, it'll help the story. Dead heroes are more useful than live witnesses. The file ended. Maya's vision swam. Her grip on her rifle tightened until her knuckles went white. There it was. Plain, unmistakable. The same man who had handed her this mission had also ordered her death. Not metaphorically, not vaguely, explicitly. Still think I'm the enemy? Hassan asked. She didn't answer. She couldn't. Everything she had trained for, believed in, served, had just collapsed beneath her like dust. And now she stood on a battlefield where orders meant betrayal, where loyalty meant death. Tarz's voice came again, urgent now. Maya, what was that? That voice, was that Morrison? She bit down hard on her own voice. If she let the rage out, she wouldn't be able to stop it. Instead, she stared into the darkness, toward the building where Hassan waited. He had hunted her team, shot Jenkins, let Kim bleed, and yet, somehow, that wasn't what haunted her most. What haunted her was that Morrison, her commanding officer, had known, had orchestrated it, had written the script for their deaths. If you're telling the truth, Maya said finally, voice trembling, why come to me? Why now? Hassan's voice turned quiet. Because I've been hiding too long, screaming into locked doors, watching good men die because no one would listen. You're the first to make it this far. And they'll kill you just like they tried to kill me, unless you fight back. She closed her eyes. She thought about Jenkins' last breath, Kim's blood, Tara's panicked voice, and that recording, those awful, undeniable words, and suddenly, silence didn't feel like loyalty anymore. It felt like complicity. What do you do when the system you swore to serve marks you for death? Maya crouched in silence, the wind whispering over broken concrete and rusted steel. Her rifle felt heavier than ever, because it no longer pointed toward the enemy. It pointed toward the truth. She'd seen it before, quiet betrayals, missions with holes no one dared to question. But she'd always brushed them off. Fog of war, bad intel, someone else's fault. Not this time. She stared across the open ground toward the administrative building. The one command had circled on the map. Primary objective, suspected weapons cache. Now she knew better. It wasn't about weapons. It was about silence, about making sure what was hidden there never saw daylight. Her comm crackled. Sarge. Kim's not breathing. Torres's voice was tight, like he was trying not to break. Maya didn't respond. She didn't have the words. She had to swallow the grief, just like she had in Kandahar when her convoy got hit, and she had to leave a 19-year-old private behind. Still alive, still screaming. Kim was gone. Torres didn't know it yet, but she did. So she made a choice. With deliberate motion, she pulled out a flare and triggered a single flash once. Low to the ground, behind her cover. Move on my mark. Their old signal. Then she whispered into the comm. Get ready to move. We're going to the administrative building. What? Why? Torres sounded incredulous. Sarge, we need extraction. Not recon. Orders changed. She cut him off. Trust me. A pause. Then, copy. Maya began her crawl. Not toward safety, but toward the heart of it all. She weaved through the wreckage of the bombed-out pharmacy, careful not to trigger noise. Each footstep was measured, every shadow a possible last, and yet, the sniper didn't fire. That silence meant only one thing. Hassan was watching. And waiting. The building loomed ahead tall, cracked, hunched like a survivor of some long-forgotten war. Maya moved faster. She reached the doorway and slipped inside. Rifle raised. It was worse in here. Dark, rotted beams, moldy papers, flickering lights still hanging from broken fixtures. But she wasn't looking for ambience. She was looking for answers. The stairs creaked beneath her boots. The climb to the third floor felt longer than it should have. She checked every corner, every hallway. Then his voice. Tripwires on the stairs. 2 on the left, 1 at the landing. He wasn't taunting this time. He was helping her. And that terrified her more than if he'd fired another shot. She spotted the wires, carefully disabled them. Then, finally, crept into the northeast corner of the 3rd floor. And there he was, Hassan. Not a ghost, not a shadow. A man, mid-30s. Ranger patch still stitched to the faded vest he wore. Sunken eyes, hollowed cheeks, but alive. And behind him, a makeshift command center. Cables, battery packs, military issue laptop hooked into a secure comms rig. The kind she hadn't seen since a black site operation 3 years ago. Maya kept her rifle raised. "If you're lying to me," she said, her voice low, "I'll put a bullet in your eye. No warning." Hassan didn't blink. He nodded once. Slowly, fair. Torres arrived moments later, breath ragged, boots scuffing the floor. He looked between them, gun raised, face torn between fear and disbelief. "Sarge, what the hell is this?" Maya ignored him. She moved toward the laptop. "Show me." Hassan turned the screen. Encrypted files, communications logs, satellite intercepts, command signatures. One folder hit her harder than the rest. Operation Sandstorm redacted. She clicked her own name, her own after-action report. Edited, rewritten, fabricated. Another file audio logs, Morrison, discussing her reprimand, not as a punishment, but as part of a narrative. "We need her discredited. Her team's loyalty is slipping." Another line. "Let's see how she handles Syria. If she walks out of that, then maybe she deserves to stay in the system." She staggered back like she'd been hit. Torres moved beside her, eyes wide. "They set us up." Maya nodded, silent. Rage was beginning to bloom. Not the hot kind. Not the chaotic kind, but the quiet, controlled fury of a soldier who knows where to aim. Then she heard it, the low rumble of diesel engines. Hassan stepped toward the window and peered through the broken blinds. "They're here." Torres looked up. Panic seeping in. "Who?" "Cleanup crew," Maya answered. "The kind that leaves no witnesses." Outside, headlights cut through the desert haze. 3 trucks, doors opening, figures moving fast, armed, coordinated. "Options?" Torres asked. "Already checking his mag. Fight or die," Hassan replied. But Maya shook her head. "Fight. And live long enough to send the truth out." Hassan turned to her, eyes searching. "I already started the upload. Secure servers. Every watchdog outlet I could find. It's almost done." Almost, which meant the only thing that mattered now was time. Maya turned to Torres. "We hold this floor. Whatever it takes." He nodded, jaw clenched. They weren't SEALs. They weren't special ops, just soldiers. Betrayed, cornered, done waiting for rescue. Below, a voice barked orders. Boots slammed against pavement. A flashbang was tossed toward the building's entrance. The first explosion ripped through the silence. Then came the gunfire. Maya steadied, her rifle against the window's edge, and whispered to herself. "Not as a prayer, but as a promise. You don't get to write my ending, Colonel." She pulled the trigger. How do you hold the line when you no longer know who the enemy is? The bullet struck center mass. One of Morrison's men dropped hard in the dirt outside the building. No warning, no scream, just impact. Maya didn't have time to register it emotionally. Another flashbang burst below. The stairwell shook. "Left flank," Torres shouted, emptying his mag toward the approaching figures. The enemy, if they could even be called that, moved like they were trained for this. Special tactics, military precision. This wasn't some panicked insurgent hit squad. These were Americans, equipped, silent, cold. Cover the West Hall. Maya barked, sliding behind the next window. She caught movement. two shapes breaking toward the rear entrance. She fired twice. One fell. The other scrambled back behind a wrecked Humvee. This wasn't war. Not like she'd known it. This was cleanup, containment, erasure. She ducked back, heart pounding. Not from fear, but from clarity. This is what Morrison did. This is how secrets were buried. Not with silence, with blood. Behind her, Hassan worked quickly at the comms terminal, fingers moving across the keyboard. Uploads at 76%, he said. We need another 15 minutes. We don't have 15, Maya snapped from below. Gunfire raked the staircase. A round punched through the floor just feet from Torres. Then screaming, not English, Arabic. Maya froze. What the hell? Mercenaries, Hassan said. Morrison contracts locals to mask operations. That way, if bodies turn up, it's easier to blame insurgents. Of course he did. Cowardice with layers. Another explosion rocked the building. Smoke poured into the hallway. They were breaching. We need to fall back, Torres choked down. Coughing through the haze, Maya shook her head. Not yet. She pressed to the wall, feeling the vibrations under her boots. They were closing in, 10 maybe more. But she'd been here before. Not this exact building, not this exact betrayal, but in that mental space where the only way out was through. No more running, no more obeying voices that spoke only in death. She swung into the hallway, dropped to one knee, and fired 3 rounds down the corridor. 2 mercs fell. The third scattered behind a pillar. Torres covered the far door, using burst fire to keep them pinned. The air filled with dust, smoke, the scent of concrete and gun oil, and somewhere in the chaos, Maya felt something crack inside her. Not fear, not despair, but the last piece of doubt. This wasn't treason. This was truth. Uploads at 90%, Hassan called. Once it finishes, it'll hit servers in 4 continents. They won't be able to stop it. Good, Maya said, reloading. Then let's make sure we're still breathing when it does. A pause. Then Hassan spoke, quieter. You don't have to stay. Maya turned to him, eyes steady. Neither did you. He looked away. In that moment, she saw the soldier beneath the wreckage. Not the sniper, not the killer, but the man who had once worn the same flag on his shoulder and believed in it just as blindly. I tried, Rodriguez, he said. I begged them to listen. For months. But it wasn't until I saw the family's Chun's mother, Martini's sister, all holding pictures of sons and brothers who died. For nothing, his voice cracked, that I realized. Exposing them might not bring justice, but it could stop the next lie before it starts. Maya didn't respond. She just understood. Another breach charge hit the far wall. The hallway erupted with dust and flame. Maya rolled to cover, shoulder, slamming hard into a desk. Boots thundered closer, yelling in broken English, shadows looming. Then gunfire erupted beside her. Torres, controlled, sharp. Every shot counted. Still breathing Sarge. He shouted through the smoke. Maya smirked. Don't get cocky. From behind the desk, Hassan shouted. Upload complete. Files are out. Maya froze. That was it. No more secrets. No more silence. Now, it was just survival. Can you shut it down? She asked. Wipe the drives? Hassan nodded. Already on it. Good. She turned back to the hallway just in time to see another squad moving in. This was it. The final push. How do you aim your weapon? When your true enemy wears your uniform. The hallway flickered with muzzle flashes. Maya dropped into a crouch and fired. 1 shot. 2. A third found its mark. The mercenary fell, slamming into the wall with a final hollow thud. Torres swept the opposite side. Covering her 6, his jaw was clenched, eyes bloodshot, breath heavy, but his hands never shook. We're gonna run dry, he called out. Maya nodded. Her rifle was already light. She had maybe 2 mags left, Torres. Less they hadn't planned. For a siege, this wasn't a mission that was meant to survive. Another grenade clinked down the stairwell. "Move!" she yelled. They ducked into the next room just as the blast ripped through the floor behind them. Wood splintered, smoke bled through the cracks. Maya coughed, eyes watering. "We're not gonna hold this place," Torres said, back against the wall. She looked at him, and something inside her cracked. They were soldiers, not machines, and Torres. He was just a kid. Not by age, maybe, but by the way he looked at her, waiting, trusting. He didn't know if they were going to make it out alive, but he still looked at her like she might somehow pull them through. She hated that, because she wasn't sure she could. A voice echoed from the courtyard below. "Colonel Morrison live, Rodriguez," he shouted, calm as a Sunday sermon. "Stand down. You've been misled. You're scared, confused, but you still have a chance to come back." His voice was broadcasted through a field mic amplified. Deliberate, he wanted it to be heard. "You were a good soldier once, Maya. Don't throw that away over the words of a traitor." Maya stared through the cracked window, spotting his figure near the lead truck, surrounded, armored, commanding. For a moment, she just watched him, studied the man she'd once respected, the one who had pinned medals to her uniform, called her one of the best, and now he was the man who left kin to bleed out, who used her file like a bullet, who signed her death sentence with the same hand he'd used to write commendations. She picked up the field mic lying near Hassan's station. "You know what, Colonel?" she said, voice low, quiet, steady. "You're right." A pause. "I was a good soldier, until I learned what that meant to you." She dropped the mic and turned away. Hassan was already breaking down the equipment, yanking cables, smashing hard. "Drives," Maya stopped him. "Not yet," she said. She reached for a flash drive, connected to the laptop, and pulled it free. "If we go down, someone needs to carry the proof." Hassan looked at it, then at her. "You take it," he said. She hesitated. "You sure?" "I've been dead for 18 months, he said quietly. "No one's looking for my story." Maya swallowed hard and slipped the drive into the small pouch behind her vest's plate carrier. Outside, engines roared louder. Another squad moved. "Into position. Time's up," Torres said, and Maya nodded. This would be the last stand. She looked around the shattered room. Broken tiles, bloody debris, sunlight filtering through the dust like ashes falling from heaven. And in that moment, she realized she wasn't afraid anymore. Not of death, not of betrayal, but of forgetting. Forgetting Jenkins' laughter, Kim's quiet prayers. The girl she used to be, who believed duty meant something deeper than orders barked down a chain of command. She grabbed her rifle and stepped to the final window. Across the courtyard, Morrison watched. Not surprised, not remorseful, just waiting, because he thought this would end with a bullet. But it wouldn't, not on his terms. What if survival means becoming the very thing you once feared? Maya steadied her breath, one hand on the rifle grip, the other pressed flat against the broken windowsill. Dust blew through the fractured glass. Below, Morrison's team fanned. Out careful, tactical, silent. They weren't just here to kill her. They were here to erase her. Hassan reloaded beside her, calm in a way that made her question everything again. Was he numb? Or just resolved? Torres crouched in the corner, bleeding from a cut above his brow. "Sarge," he said, voice cracking. "What if we can't hold?" Maya didn't lie to him. "We don't hold." He blinked, confused. "We move," she said. "We cut through the east stairwell and push out through the south alley. We're not here to die for the upload anymore. It's out. It's done. Now we make sure someone survives to say it was real." Hassan nodded. "I'll cover your exit." Torres looked up, eyes wide. "No." But Maya stopped him with a look. This wasn't up for debate. "You said you wanted proof." "Rodriguez," Hassan said softly. "You've got it. You've seen it. Now do something with it." She hated how right he was. He wasn't a Villain. Not anymore. Maybe not ever. He'd done terrible things. Yes. Jenkins was still dead. Kim, gone. She would carry that weight forever. But sometimes, the story is more complicated than sides. Sometimes the real enemy isn't in front of you. It's above you. Watching through satellite feeds and signing off on silence, she gave Hassan a long look. No salute. No handshake. Just eyes. Just truth. Then she turned. Torres, on me. They moved. The east stairwell was barely intact, rubble, smoke. A blood trail she didn't want to think about. But it wasn't watched, not yet. They descended fast, boots slamming through debris, hearts pounding like war drums. Outside, gunfire erupted again. Hassan, he was keeping his promise. Each shot timed, controlled, deliberate, delaying Morrison's men, drawing them back. South alley. Maya called, leading Torres through the crumbling rear door. Sunlight stabbed into their eyes. Heat pressed down like a weight. But she kept moving, one step, then another, and then contact. Voices behind them, shouts, footsteps. Maya grabbed Torres's vest and shoved him behind the burned-out frame of a Humvee. She spun, raised her rifle, and fired. 2 mercs dropped, but more came. Keep moving, she shouted. They sprinted, alley to alley, wall to wall. Her legs screamed, her lungs ached, but she didn't stop. Because this wasn't just about getting out. This was about the story, the flash drive in her vest, the names on those dog tags, the silence that had swallowed too many good people whole. Then another voice. Familiar. Too familiar. Morrison, Rodriguez, stop running. You won't get far. And if you fire on my men again, there won't be anything left to bury. She slowed, just for a breath, because part of her wanted to turn around, to scream at him, ask him why Kim had to die, why Jenkins didn't matter, why the truth was worth less than paperwork. But she didn't. Instead, she spoke without turning back. We're not running, Colonel. We're walking out, and when we do, the whole world's going to hear what you did. He didn't respond because he knew it was too late. When the world falls apart, what's left to believe in? The final shots came fast, sharp bursts behind them. Morrison's men firing wildly now, less precise, more desperate. Hassan was still up there, Maya knew, holding that position with everything he had. But it wouldn't last. It never does. Maya and Torres cleared the last alleyway, their boots skidding into the dry dust of the open terrain beyond the compound. No cover, no guarantees, just open sky and 30 meters of exposure before. The next ridge. Go. Maya shouted. Torres hesitated. Just a beat, then ran. She followed, heart pounding in her throat. Not from fear, but from something deeper, guilt, hope, rage. All of it mixed in a tangle of adrenaline and memories she'd never fully unpack. Behind them a sharp crack, one more gunshot, then silence. Hassan was gone. She didn't have to see it. She just knew. They crossed the ridge, collapsed into a gully out of sight, breathing, still alive. And for the first time in hours, Maya allowed herself to feel. Her hand shook. Her rifle dropped into the dust. Torres sat beside her, silent, watching her with wide, haunted eyes. We made it, he whispered. Maya didn't answer. Not yet. She reached into her vest, pulled out the flash drive, the final piece of everything they had risked, everything they had lost, proof of betrayal, of corruption at the highest levels, of soldiers who died not in glory, but in shadows forgotten by the system they swore to protect. Maya stared at it. So small, so simple, and yet everything. Hours later, they found a secure comms station tucked into a derelict outpost 5 kilometers south. No one followed. Not yet. Maya connected the drive. The files were still intact. She sent them. Every log, every intercepted call, every photo of the bodies buried in the pharmacy ruins to 10 different news outlets, 3 encrypted whistleblower sites, and a watchdog agency with no military affiliation. Then she sat back and waited. The first reply came 15 minutes later. Received, "We believe you. Stay safe." 3 more followed, then 5. Then the feed started lighting up. Not just military blogs, mainstream, it was out. The silence was broken. They got pulled out too. Days later, quietly, no official records, no press, no debrief. Just a dust-covered helicopter that hovered low and never touched base at a real base. Torres stayed silent. He hadn't said much since that last run. But before they boarded the bird, he turned to her. "What now, Sarge?" She didn't answer right away, because she didn't know. What do you do after everything you believed in collapses? What do you do when your uniform feels more like a scar than a symbol? She looked at the horizon, thought of Kim's shallow breaths, Jenkins' startled eyes, Hassan's final shot, and the way Morrison had said her name, like it already belonged on a gravestone. What now? Maya inhaled. Then quietly, simply, she said, "We live, and we remember." Torres nodded, and together, they stepped into the bird weeks later. The headlines flooded in. Whistleblower exposes Black Ops deaths in Syria. Military corruption deepens as rogue officers' recordings surface. Morrison resigns amid investigation. Names were uncovered. Families of the fallen finally learned the truth. And across every screen, Maya saw the faces of men she'd fought beside, laughed beside, bled beside, finally honored, not with medals, but with truth. They would not be forgotten. In the end, Maya left the service, quietly, no ceremony, no one stopped her. She didn't need permission to be done. She walked away with nothing but her scars, her memories, and her dignity, because sometimes dignity doesn't speak. It simply acts, and sometimes that's enough.